allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So welcome. We'll begin by reviewing the draft minutes of the previous meeting held February 27th, 2023. I make a motion to approve the draft minutes. Would a member second? I'll second. Thanks, Patricia. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved without amendment. We'll review the agenda as posted on the town website for tonight's meeting. We'll begin with Ash, 218 South Lake Avenue, seeking 2 area variances, followed by Fane at 1 Larry Court, seeking 1 area variance. Next, will be Halsey at 665 Tamarack Road, seeking 2 area variances, followed by Bolson, 63 Indian Creek Lane. Then we'll hear CVE from Bel Air Lane. And for new business, Ace Hardware at 831 Cruzick Road. So we'll begin with our first item of business, which is to open a public hearing on the application. If the applicant wants to come up to the microphone and give us a little overview of your proposed project. And then if you could kindly note if there have been any changes to the application since you were last here in February.
Hello. I don't think we've had any changes, right?
Okay,
There
good
are
to
no
know.
changes, so we were asking for variance to keep our shed where it is, because we do have the some pump water that's piped out, not by us, but it's there prior, that would run directly into our shed, which Aaron saw when you came, and behind that is all swamp and flooding. Unfortunately, we did not have time between the two of us to get you guys copies, but if anyone would like to look at the video that Ryan has of the water, at any point, we can certainly show that to you this evening if you'd like to pass it along. Just so you can see the way that the water runs. It's all really high right now, so it's almost covering, it's close to covering the road. I think another couple days of rain and we'll really be over the road yet, but the reason we had the request of the variance to begin with was because of the flooding. Because we really don't have any other location to put it. If we put it back any further, then we have even worse flooding. If we put it closer to the house, it's going to be flooded by the pipeline that's coming out of the septic. So the sump pump, I'm sorry, not the septic, I apologize, the sump pump. So really, it's the only location that we have. We do have a deck. I think you saw when you were there, there's enough space for us to mow and to keep it beautiful behind it. So I think that's it, right?
Great. So what we'll do is we'll open up the public hearing. The public will have the opportunity to speak to your application. And then if there's only board members have any questions at that time, we'll ask you to come up and we'll ask you those questions and then we'll go from there.
One of our neighbors dropped this off today. There's a letter for you. He's unable to make it.
Okay, sure.
So hand that over.
Sure, you can take the check. Yeah, thank you. And you'll have the opportunity to read that into the record.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the zoning board will open the public hearing on this application, noting that the notice was published in the East Wave Press. It was placed on the town signboard. It was posted on the town website and mailed to all owners of adjacent property within 300 feet of the project site.
Okay, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the zoning board of appeals of the town of Brunswick at 6 p.m. on Monday, March 20, 2023 at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 180. Concerning the application submitted by Ryan Ash for 2 area variances in connection with the construction of a shed on property located at 218 South Lake Avenue. The parcel is a corner lot requiring consideration of 2 front line setback variances. Copies of the application are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing.
Thank you. If you'd like to come and speak, you're welcome to do so. Hello,
Hi there.
thanks for coming tonight.
My name's Arthur Blair. This is my wife Connie. We're next door on the area where they had asked for a variance on side variance. And we don't, there's, as you can see in the site plans, they have encroached on it, and we just don't, I mean, there was no documented pre-existing condition of flooding there in the last 25 years that we've been living there. So anything that was done was probably done, I'm not sure, with his landscaping and moving gravel and dirt to level out the property. I don't know about any kind of permits and stuff that he had and stuff, but that's, you know, there's other locations that can be done, that can be put at the end of their driveway, stuff like that. 4 feet is a little too close for a 15-foot setback.
And most of this began, I would say, early in the summer when I noticed that they were excavating very near our property line. And I went over to address this fact with them. And my husband and I spoke with Mr. Ross, I believe. And subsequently, 2 other times we went over to let them know that they had crossed our property line that we share with them in the northwest corner of our lot. And anything that was brought to them was pretty much ignored. And then there was a dropping of gravel on our property, elimination of shrubbery and trees, just not down and left to rot and die. And I'm thinking now, as months have passed, it may have been an attempt on their part to make their property look more available to meet the setback, like taking part of our land. And Mrs. Ash assured me one night at my front door that they did indeed have a survey of the property from what they had moved in that previous year. And we went out and we had the survey done again, which proved again that they had encroached on our property. And then this past January, they had theirs done. And I think with the paperwork that Mr. Golden has, it pretty much shows that the lines do match and the encroachment is over, several feet. I know the property from living there, as Arthur said, for 25 years. I have septic that runs 24/7, 365. Our septic goes into a swale. It doesn't get dumped on my property. So a septic system or a sump pump would certainly be managed water that would go to a drainage area, not onto a lawn. So I believe also personally, this shed is way too large for the property for its placement. If it went down behind the house on their driveway into more like a garage facility for storage of their equipment or whatever they needed it for, it would probably have been more appropriate than so close to South Lake. It is a speedway, as you probably have heard. I had a case last summer, not 22 but 21, a car went into our corner wooded lot, and there was serious damage to the property then, and the individual in the car. I'm just worried that it's too close to a thoroughfare, county road that you may or may not see someone slipping or sliding into. I just think that if people had been more reasonable at the time that we spoke to them, and before the shed was dropped, and again, we had been working with Mr. Golden because of the encroachment and Mr. Bradley, and they had assured us also that permits for dropping of the gravel and the shed had been pulled, but I believe the actions, at Mr. Bradley's word, went against his wishes and dropped it anyway. So now it's just a question of asking forgiveness after the fact. That a lot of damage has been done, and it's not close. I believe it's dangerous. And to be placed properly behind the home there. Did I forget anything? Okay, thanks for hearing us.
Yeah, thank you. Would anyone else like to come up and speak? Hi, thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you. My name's Amanda Talon. We live next door to the Ashes, and their shed is a beautiful shed. It doesn't seem too close to South Lake to me. The property is wet. Our yard is next to the Ashes, and our ground is also wet. I don't think there's any kind of an environmental concern with where their shed is. I think that it's perfectly placed for the way that their yard is. They have nowhere to go. It's not a huge yard. They can't put it closer to the main road. They can't put it back further to the creek that everyone's sump pump dumps into. If it makes sense for this. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, thanks for coming tonight.
I'm Jeremy Navarette, and this is Audrey Wagner, who live next door to the Ashes. And we pretty much have the same comments as the previous speaker, just that our backyard's all kind of flood, and it does make sense for their shed to be where it is.
There are other logical places to put that shed. It's not fairly close to a road, and it's not infringing on anyone else's property. It is on their yard. Their backyard is very, very wet. The side yard has sometimes been a septic system. There just aren't really good logical places to put a shed there. They're not doing anything that would involve any kind of other runoff. The entire area is wet, so we're all careful about that. They're just using it as a shed, so we're using a lot more. That's really all they're doing, but
We don't have any problems with it being where it is.
not at all.
Thank you, thank you for coming. So this is a letter that was received in regards to this application. Attorney Gilchrist is going to read it into the record.
So this is dated March 20th, 2023. It is from Drew Prescott and Stacy Prescott, zoning board of appeals members. Our names are Drew and Stacy Prescott, residents in the town of Brunswick residing at 211 South Lake Avenue, as well as the owners of land, which would be 213 South Lake Avenue. It has come to our attention that a new resident, Brian Ash, has been asked to move his shed to meet setback provisions established by the town. We understand that you have requested Mr. Ash to move his shed back to meet the setback guidelines established by the town, but I also understand the challenge of having a shed delivered by the companies. This is a big undertaking for a homeowner to move a shed after it's been delivered. Mr. Ash has made significant improvements to his land since purchasing their family's new household. We believe that this shed is a welcome addition to the curb appeal of his property, and we have no issues with the location of the shed. We ask that you please grant him the approval for his requested variances on both sides. Please consider that this initial complaint has come from the neighbor with the adjacent property to Mr. Ash, who have filed complaints on other neighbors for cleaning up their property and refreshing the water canal to improve flow at no cost to the town of Brunswick or the county of Rensselaer. We are thankful for our neighbors as they have cleaned up a home that was an eyesore for decades. Now we have a beautiful home with a beautiful shed that only increases the appeal of our community. If you, Board of Appeals, chooses not to give Mr. Ash the acceptation he is in search of, and you require him to move it a few feet back to meet the setback requirements, there would be no change to the aesthetics. This would simply be a way for a neighbor to feel as though they are controlling someone else. Additionally, I would like to see us as a neighborhood avoid a preventable financial pressure to a hardworking family through the threatened fines by the town. Let's get back to being good neighbors and acting like the small town that we are. As a homeowner who has had new construction on both sides, we have not complained about anything. We believe that if someone is going to improve the value and the aesthetics, as a good neighbor, step aside and let them do as they wish. Unless it does not bring beauty or is a potential hazard, which in Mr. Ash's case, neither are applicable. In closing, we ask that you consider these comments and allow Mr. Ash to receive the variance he has requested. Thank you for considering our request.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time? Now, I'll ask any of the board members if you have questions for the applicants. I have a question, if you kind of come up, please. Thank you. So can you kindly describe the vegetation that's in the southeast corner of your backyard? If there's any trees present, what kind of trees are there? If you could describe any barrier between you and the neighbors, is it a clear shot, is it a lawn? How would you describe that? please?
So the Blair's property that is vacant next to us is brush, overgrown brush. There's trash in the center of it. It is just brush. And I just would like, before we even go any further, this is not about any kind of encroachment. This is only about the placement of our shed. I
That's
know
right.
that Mr. and Mrs. Blair were up here talking very deeply about encroachment. That's a
Right.
different situation, correct?
That's right. So
Okay.
as the public notice was first read at the beginning of the application, that's the business that the zoning board will deal with today.
Okay.
And it's the area variances.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're not taking into consideration encroachment challenges that there may or may not be at this particular hearing.
Again, it's for your right.
Okay. There was also mention of serious property damage to her corner. We were not there for that, so I don't know anything about that. I don't see anything different than what was there before. Right behind our home, it's all brush. There's nothing but brush. It's all overgrown, and everyone in the neighborhood who has been there has told us it used to be all clear and beautiful. And unfortunately, the previous owners, I believe the husband became very ill, and the wife unfortunately could no longer take care of the home, the property, anything anymore, which is very sad. So everything became overgrown. And we're doing nothing more than looking to clean it up. We're planning on putting soil down this year. Whatever has fallen onto their property will be removed. The
There's a
shed is
large,
also
there's a large, weeping willow tree in the back
in
corner,
the week ago, we have.
I've seen medium size. Over the summer, a piece of that did break off, because it was a weak tree, it's an old tree, just at some point it will be falling down eventually, by whether a storm or the weeds will get down. So, where the shed is compared to that tree is far enough away from that, so if it did fall, it would fall into the shed.
There was also mentioned that our shed is too close to South Lake Avenue. Our home is closer to South Lake Avenue than our shed is. And too big, I think it's in conjunction with the size of our home currently. But however, if someone would love to build a garage for us, have at it. Because we would love to have somebody do that for us. But we would still probably have a shed because we have outdoor equipment that would not be able to fit, we have a tiny piece of property over there. It's not huge. I don't know, I think there were two other people that stopped by yesterday. I don't know who that was. However, the property is just far too small to have a giant garage. So we wouldn't be able to put anything other than 2 vehicles in the garage if we ever built a garage there. Which we hope to do at some point, but it would be for vehicles. and maybe some wall tools, but that would be it. We can't get our tractor our lawn tractor into the basement. That's not even an option. It's just a normal 36-inch door, and our tractor is a bit bigger than that. You saw what was there. It's just for storage, for clean storage, for property items, and it's not a drop off for everything.
And the application says it's 10 by 16.
10 by 16.
I should also know, on the backside of the residence, there's a septic system. So obviously the septic system is right behind, and then the leach field goes off from the septic system to the side yard. Also, like if we would have to move the shed to the left or to the rear of the yard, also that would go on the septic system.
Which at some point, I'm sure down the road, will need to be replaced. It's old. And that would be a nightmare to try to move your shed again. And we really don't have another location to put it. I'm sorry that the Blairs have not noticed any flooding. We do see flooding. We didn't put in the pipe that comes from our sump pump. It was there. We've noticed it more and more and more and more because we get more flooding in our basement all of the time. So the sump pump is constantly draining out, and we brought the shed closer to the home. Then all of that water is going to be running directly into the shed or under the shed, which would then eat away at the land.
During the summer, there is less water in the basement. However, during mud season, there's a lot more water comes out.
Okay, well, thank you. You answered my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, if I could, I will just note, and this is not a hearing about an encroachment. But one of the issues you will need to determine is whether the extent of the requested variance is substantial in terms of the setback, and that's really how the building department has determined. Okay.
Thank you. So hearing no further public comment, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. So that motion, please.
Make a motion.
Thank you, John. Would members second?
Second.
Thanks, Darrell. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The public hearing is closed. Design board members are prepared to deliberate and act on this application, noting that it's a type 2 under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, so no seeker determination is required. The zoning board members will review the standard elements for consideration of area variance. The board is asked to explain how no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood nor detriment to nearby properties created by granting the area variances. Let's start by saying that the dimensional alteration that exists does not result in a structure that is seriously out of place in this neighborhood. Other properties have sheds or freestanding garages similar to this well-constructed prefab shed. In addition, there is vegetative between the neighbor who would be most affected by this. And then number 2, the board is asked to explain why the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the requested area variances.
Well, I think the applicant explained, for instance, why they can't place it in any place else. It is a small yard, and maybe other issues that they have going on in the yard, it's the only location for it.
Right, and if you wanted to enumerate those other reasons, we say that it's a corner lot, it's existing non-conforming, a creek runs through the property, there's no garage, there's limited dry area. This is an active family who desires to maximize their living quarters. And then we're also asked to explain whether the requested area variance is substantial. noting that the front yard setback is requesting a 34-foot, it has a 34-foot encroachment, where the side has a 10-foot encroachment. You can also note under this that it's, the zoning district is R15. So we're looking to describe whether the area variance is substantial.
I think it's substantial given the number that the side setback requires versus what we're looking for, but the alternative to the location, they have no choice but to put it in that location. So I think there's really no detriment because of the substantial request.
Thank you, John. We were asked to explain how the proposed area variances will not have adverse effects on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And I would say that the proposal will have limited potential impact on such factors as traffic, drainage, dust, noise, odor. And then lastly, the board is asked to explain whether the difficulty is self-created, where the consideration is relevant but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variances. And I would agree that it is self-created. This constitutes the self-created difficulty as the lot was substandard and non-conforming at the time it was purchased. I also want to note that the Rensselaer County Bureau of Economic Development and Planning has determined that the proposal does not have a major impact on county plans and that local consideration shall prevail. There's no other further deliberation. The board can consider the balance between the benefit to the applicant is weighed against any detriment to the community at large or the neighborhood in particular to determine to grant requested area variances.
I make a motion to grant the variances.
John, would a member second?
One second.
Thanks, John. All in favor?
Aye.
So the area variances have been granted. Please continue the work that you're doing with the building department going forward. Thanks for coming tonight.
Two judges should make it easy. You shouldn't, vote one and then second.
Our second application is an area variance being sought by Donald Fain at 1 Larry Court. Would the applicant's representative like to come up, please? And just kind of give us an overview again of the project and if anything has changed since we last met in February.
Good afternoon, evening. My name is Mark Danson. I'm a local land surveyor. I'm here with Mr. Fain, who resides at number 1 Larry Court. Nothing has changed since the last time we've been in front of you. What the applicant plans on doing, he has a pre-existing non-conforming lot and house which predates zoning, and he wishes to put a second floor on. Won't change the footprint, simply a rise up in the air.
It's a sweet house. Okay.
Good enough?
Thank you. Yeah.
Get the idea?
We got the idea. Thank you very much. So the zoning board will open a public hearing on this application, noting that the public hearing notice was published in the Eastwick Press, placed on the town signboard, posted on the town website, and mailed to all owners of adjacent property within 300 feet.
Okay, notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the zoning board of appeals of the town of Brunswick at 6:15 PM on Monday, March 20, 2023, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180, concerning the area variance application submitted by Donald Fain for the expansion of an existing non-conforming structure on property located at 1 Larry Court. Copies of the application are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing.
Thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against this application? Chuck, has the zoning board received any written comments on
We
this?
have received no written or email comments on this.
Thank you. Are there any questions, any of the zoning board members?
No questions?
So hearing no public comment, I make a motion to close the public hearing portion of this application with a member second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Patricia. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. The public hearing is closed. The zoning board members are prepared to deliberate and act on this application, which again is a type 2 residential under the SEEKR, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, so no further SEEKR determination is required. We want to note that the Rensselaer County Bureau of Economic Development and Planning has determined that the proposal does not have major impact on county plans and that local consideration shall prevail. So the board is asked to explain how no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties created by granting the area variance. I just have to say that the proposed addition of a second story on this 37 by 34 foot one-story house would not result in a structure that would be seriously out of place in the neighborhood, as other neighboring houses are similar size and have 1 or 2 stories. Then the board is asked to explain why the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance.
Well, it's already a substandard lot, so no matter what they do, they would have to have some kind of a variance.
Agree to that, that's right. And the board is asked to describe whether the requested area variance is substantial.
I don't believe it's substantial because it's a second floor addition. No encroachment on any setback lines.
We're asked to explain how the proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Well, since he's going up, it's not disrupting anything, you know, in the ground or, you know, any digging or anything like that.
And then lastly, we're asked to explain whether the difficulty is self-created. And I thought the applicant's response was very appropriate. I'll read it. The difficulty is not self-created. The building lot was created in 1955. The existing house was also built in 1955. Both predate the start of the town zoning code, which began in 1958. And then I would just add to that that any additions to a non-conforming structure are usually required to comply with the area requirements of the zoning regulations. So if there is no further deliberation, I ask the board to consider the balance between the benefit to the applicant as weighed against any detriment to the community at large or the neighborhood in particular, and determining to grant requested area variance.
But that's what the neighborhood, and town residents, everybody in the community, and this benefit of, adding a doubling the space in the home.
So is that a motion to grant the variance?
Yes, it is.
Would a member second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Patricia. All in favor?
Aye.
Your area variance has been granted. So please continue the work that you're doing with our hardworking building department, please, going forward.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Have a good night. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
The third public hearing tonight is from an application requesting 2 area variances at 665 Tamarack Road by Mr. Chris Halsey. Mr. Halsey, if you want to come up and kind of just give an overview of your project and let us know if there's been any changes since we last met at February's meeting.
No, there's been no changes. Still in the middle of the garage. Looking a little bit closer to the property line due to the wetland we have, and creek overflows, locations full already, and driveway. And size wise, looking at bigger than what's allowed without variance, so I could park all my vehicles and toilets and campers, get stuff in there without making another building.
Great, so just like the other 2 previous public hearings, we'll kind of go into that now.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, so the board, zoning board will open the public hearing on this application. Maybe it is published in the Eastwick Press, which is our official municipal newspaper, placed on the town sideboard, posted on the town website, and mailed to all owners of adjacent property within 300 feet.
Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the zoning board of appeals of the town of Brunswick at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, March 20, 2023, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180, concerning the application submitted by Chris Halsey for 2 area variances in connection with the construction of a barn on property located at 665 Tamarack Road. The application requests 2 area variances, including a side yard setback variance and a variance for an accessory structure in excess of the size limitation under the Brunswick zoning law. Copies of the application are available at Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing.
Thank you very much. So if anyone would like to speak for or against this application, you're welcome to come up and do so. Wayne, Chuck, zoning board, will you receive
We received
comments?
no written or email comments.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the zoning board members? I just want to make note for the record that you handed in a submittal of what the building would look like. The zoning board requested that at the February meeting, and you produced that. So I just want to, for the record, know that we're in receipt of that. Thank you.
I have a question.
Come on up, please. Thank you.
So I'm not sure because you're showing, in this here, you're showing the roof. So this is 60 feet to here.
Correct. That overlay on the side of it, that small part is actually just the concrete that's shown in that drawing. The building stays the same, 6,500, just for that.
Okay, so this part here is just the slab on the outside.
So I have a question regarding if there's any commercial usage going to be done in this building, noting that it's an A40 zoning district. Andy, if I could kind of get the rundown and what's allowed, and, did it, I guess, was the applicant going to do a home office or going to work from home using this space?
Yeah, I believe that's a lot of things on office in there. No work can be getting done.
Would there be any customers traveling to the building and from the building?
Any questions? For the record, any questions on allowable uses in the zone? Chuck can review those. Yep. Okay. What's being proposed currently, I understand, is
Just for
a
storage.
building for storage. Right. Yeah. If there's another use in the future, that could be reviewed by the building department.
That's how we're looking at this, as a storage.
I believe it says that there's, you're allowed to have a home office in my law, and that's all. So I have no other use for it, I only design for it. I don't know if it was mentioned, but it did get a chance to come walk the property, I don't know if they don't.
Any other questions from some?
So you're looking to be 5 feet away from the, your side setback. So is there any possibility that that building could be moved over?
I think at the 25-foot required mark, I don't believe it could go that far. Could it possibly move over a little bit? That is a possibility. And then I guess it would change the driveway layout. I would prefer it over there because then you don't ever have to plow on that side. Never causing any snow to go into the neighbor's yard to create any issues there. Not that it's any issue, but their building is also 5 foot off the property line as well. Not that it's any of the same size, but there is a building there.
Yeah, it's, I don't even know if it's 100 square feet, is it?
It's at least
Small.
100 square feet, but still, I mean, there's no reason, I mean, to have the driveway there, then you still have to maintain your driveway. I guess you could probably go 10 foot, but as you go any further, you get into, you need to be driving closer to the garage where you have the houses there and then you have the pool back there. And I would rather prefer to drive this way than to keep moving it over and then have to circumvent. Is it possible? I suppose anything is possible.
Yeah, and is it possible, kind of piggyback on that concern, to maintain that? So, mowing would have to be done on that 5 foot setback.
I think it would be more of an overhang, so you don't have any mowing. And, I mean, overhang's gonna be a couple feet with a gutter system on it, to collect all the water anyway. But the idea is to have minimal maintenance over there.
And that overhang gutter would still be on your property.
Correct.
Any other questions, Mr. Halsey? Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, I did have one question.
Sure. Thank you.
The height of the building,
20 foot.
it's 20 foot, and there will not be a second floor or any kind of stairs going up to the top or
Inside the building?
inside the building?
I don't believe so. I think they're just gonna put racks and storage. Maybe a loft where you use the storage off the trusses of the building, but there's not gonna be anything upstairs. Real upstairs.
All right, okay, thanks.
So, kind of, maybe like the way that the line of questioning has been going, so there's a minimum variance necessary. And the statutes say that when granting either a use variance or an area variance, the zoning board of appeals must grant the minimum variance that deems necessary and adequate, at the same time preserving, protecting the character of the neighborhood and the health and safety and welfare of the community. So, like, you don't have to give everything, that, you know, kind of like in a nutshell. So that's something just to think about with the line of questioning that I'm hearing about. Something to consider. And I think the applicant too said, where in the application is requesting a 5-foot relief, like a 5-foot setback, you know, that you could work with 10. So something to support. So hearing no public comment, I make a motion to close the public hearing portion of this application with a number second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dale. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So the public hearing is closed. The zoning board members are prepared to deliberate and act on this application. And I want to note again that the Rensselaer County Bureau of Economic Development and Planning said that local consideration shall prevail. Again, this is a type 2 residential application, type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, so no seeker determination is required. So we'll look at our standards. The board is asked to explain how no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood, nor detriment to nearby properties created by granting the area variances. And so another way of saying that, of course, is the board must consider whether the proposed dimensional alteration being for the side setback and the excess and side limitation of an accessory structure will result in a structure that will be seriously out of place in the neighborhood. So this is an interesting neighborhood. It's relatively new in the town of Brunswick standards, I believe 2008, where there was a vacant land. A few houses were put on that. And adding to another characteristic of the neighborhood is not a neighbor, but a butter, Harrington Farm, which is a 1,200 dairy head cow barn with lots of buildings to accommodate all those cows. So I think it's an interesting neighborhood where it's residential and a commercial farm. So because of that, I would say that there would be no undesirable change in the neighborhood with the addition of this proposed barn structure. And then the board is asked to explain why the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variances.
Well, although the lot looks large, it's really taken up mostly by unusable land. It's got some issues on the property, like having a well cap in the center of the back of the property. There's really not many other locations where you could locate the proposed building.
And then the board is asked to describe whether the requested variance is substantial. One variance is for a 4,500 square foot variance where he's proposing 6,000 square feet where 1,500 square feet is allowed. And the side setback required is 25 feet and he's proposing 5. And I just want to add that the zoning district is 840. And it's a 5.67 acre parcel. So I think in relation to the size of the lot, in relation to what else is in the neighborhood, yeah, it is not as substantial. And that it seems like the applicant has some wiggle room on the side setback if that's necessary. The board is asked to explain how the proposed area variances will not have adverse effects on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. I have to say, no, there's no potential impact to environmental factors such as traffic, drainage, noise, odor, emergency services. And then lastly, we're asked to explain whether the difficulty is self-created, the consideration is relevant, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of area variances.
So, it really isn't, you got structure, there really isn't anywhere else that we could put it. It's already indicated that there's got some trouble to wetlands in the back. You know, you get too close to the well, and you're too close to the house. Actually, looks like a good spot for it.
So there's no other further deliberation. So consider the benefit to the applicant as weighed against any detriment to the community at large, and the neighborhood in particular, in granting the requested area variances.
Before we grant, don't grant a variance, I would like to say that I agree with Ann, that 5 feet isn't very much distance to build a building. There's always a chance when you're building, you're going to encroach on the neighbor's property. If you can move it over towards 10 feet away, it would give you more room to work on your building without worrying about doing damage to your neighbor's property. And since he already said he could do it an extra 5 feet, I really think we should.
I agree.
Remember saying.
I'll second.
Thanks, John. All in favor?
Aye.
So your area variances have been granted. Kind of going forward, coordinate your work that you're doing and building these properties. Have a good night. Thank you for coming. So that's the end of our public hearings. So the next application is Folsom. So what we'll do is there'll be a change in our representation. Attorney Gilchrist has recused himself, take on Attorney Crystal Roy for us. Any other changes that need to be done?
Yes, the applicant has requested that I not participate in any discussions or decisions related to his matter. While I don't believe it is required or necessary for me to recuse myself, to avoid any questions or issues, I am voluntarily choosing to recuse myself.
Thank you, Patricia. Can I step out again?
Thank you.
The next item is the matter of the Charles Olson 63 Indian Creek Lane appeal. The zoning board members are in receipt of Mr. Bolson's attorney's latest letter dated March 14th, 2023. The board's initial consideration is whether the appeal is properly before the zoning board as the zoning board is an administrative body of limited jurisdiction and powers. If the zoning board determines that the appeal is properly in front of the board, then a public hearing on the appeal can be scheduled. Based on my understanding of the powers and duties specifically set forth in the law regarding appellate jurisdiction of the zoning board of appeals, and based on the materials submitted by Mr. Olson, my understanding is that the board is vested only with the appellate power of review and revision of the enforcement officer's decision. Since no decision had been made by the code enforcement officer, the zoning board of appeals has no right under the town law and town code to hear and decide Mr. Bolson's appeal to the second building permit application made on March 21st, 2022. The discussion is open to the other board members.
I for one agree with you. I think that's the way the law is written, that's the way it should be interpreted. I agree with everything you said.
I agree as well, Ann.
So other ways of saying it is that the CEO, the code enforcement officer, never issued any determination on the second building permit application. And that our jurisdiction is limited to hearing the appeals from the determination of the code enforcement officer. There's been no written determination. Just to add real quickly, also that there is no court case to support the appeal as demonstrated by the Bolson attorney's submittals, nor found by the board's special counsel. There was a failure of the CEO to issue a decision and a determination.
So just to clarify that last legal point, the legal question is whether under the New York State town law and the town of Brunswick town code, whether this ZBA has jurisdiction to hear an appeal taken not from an actual decision or denial issued by the building inspector, but what has been framed as a constructive denial, the failure to issue a decision. I conducted legal research, and I was unable to find any case law supporting the idea that a zoning board of appeals has jurisdiction to hear an appeal from a constructive denial. So that's information I shared with you, and that, in my view, is consistent with the way the statute. So unless there's further board member discussion, at some point when the board is ready, probably appropriate for a motion to be made taking action on the pending appeal.
So hearing no further discussion, would
Before
amend.
this comes, may I be heard on this?
No. There's no public hearing or public comment at this time. The board is prepared to issue a determination on the jurisdictional issue, and it's about to do that.
You can ask Mr. Bolden why he won't make the determination tonight. You can ask him right now.
So would amend.
That's not pending in front of us at the moment. The only thing the board is going to decide is the jurisdictional question, and they're about to do that.
So having had a discussion regarding the zoning board of appeals, the jurisdiction on hearing of this
Something I
appeal.
was permitted to speak at the last one, that wasn't a public hearing either, right? You asked for our arguments, and I'm here to give you the arguments.
Mr. Tejan, I've been very clear. We're not engaging any further argument on the issue of jurisdiction at tonight's meeting. We've had plenty of opportunities to submit written submissions. They've been reviewed by the board is prepared to issue its
And
determination.
we ask questions, like why hasn't
Would a member make a motion to dismiss the appeal for lack of jurisdiction?
Make a motion to discuss.
Would the member second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
The vote carries.
The only thing I would point out is that based on the dismissal of the appeal, any fee paid by the applicant to file that appeal should be refunded by
I believe that's the amount of $100 that was paid on February 3rd, 2020.
subject to confirmation, and yes, that amount will be refunded.
Thank you. Then would you kind of talk about the follow-up at our April's meeting?
Yeah, so I'm not your regular zoning board of appeals attorney, that's Mr. Gilchrist. He and I may have different practices when it comes to representing ZBAs on decision-making. I find it to be helpful that after a determination has been made by a vote, to then draft a written decision memorializing the basis for that decision, which will then get filed with the town clerk's office. So I believe the next meeting is April 17th. At the April 17th meeting, there will be a written decision, essentially summarizing your determination, the basis for that the board will then be in a position to adopt. Again, that will get filed with the town clerk's office. So that will be the last step in completing this process. Again, the board's determination is not going to change. It's just a document memorializing the decision.
And included in that, I'd like to answer questions that we've asked, be included within that, which is, has Mr. Goldman been asked why he refuses to make the determination that's raised this issue at the beginning? And so, what's his response? Tomorrow marks the 1-year anniversary since we submitted this application. And for a year, Mr. Bolsick has tried to get an answer from the town and from Mr. Goldman, just yes or no on the application. And what is a landowner to do in this situation? We're in the Franz Kafka lane here, where our ability to appeal determination has to arise at some point. It can't be a legal limbo where Mr. Gold simply refuses to answer, and then our rights to go to the ZBA don't arise, and then our Article 78 rights don't arise until we come to this body. What is a landowner supposed to do? If the town enforcement officer simply refuses to make a determination, I don't know what the answer to that is.
We're all set. There's nothing more pending in front of the ZBA with respect to this beyond the adoption of the written decision at the next meeting.
I would have done that.
Where is she? In the office behind us? Usually they just go on out back there.
She's gone down to Dunkin' Donuts.
I was gonna say, that's a darn good idea. Nah, she didn't.
So next on our agenda, we have CVE, Bel Air Lane. And I believe we need to do some clarifying with some language. And John, I just want to let you know, the May meeting, we were both absent. So that's why our memories are what they are. Okay.
I just have a bad memory.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, how are you? Thanks for coming tonight. Yeah, so I understand that at a construction, a pre-construction meeting perhaps,
Yeah.
it kind of came up, well, you had some question about some grading and that was resolved, but
Yeah.
this question about how many utility poles.
Yes.
So zoning board of appeals, that's what we're concerned about, is the number of utility poles, because our law says 2, what's being proposed, we're going to talk about 5 or 6.
Correct.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like that it was determined at the May 16, 2022 meeting of how many utility poles were allowed for this project. And so in the minutes, it stated, everyone said 5.
Yeah.
So the application submitted said 6, but you said 5, Patricia said 5, there was an understanding when it was voted on that it was 5.
Yep.
But in previous minutes, going back to April, March, and February, there was a general understanding that it was 6 poles.
As well as the application stating 6.
That's right. And I believe tab G, if that's where it is in the application where the layout of the poles is. And that rendering shows 6 poles. And I thought it was interesting that both times, so at the May meeting, the April, March, February meeting, the reason given for why this number of poles was the national grid requirement due to New York State standards for this type of solar. So I thought that was kind of funny that it was the same answer for both numbers, but. Yeah, so what is, going forward, how does your application look?
Yep. Thanks for that introduction. I think that's correct. Unfortunately, at the meeting where the decision was made, I misspoke and mentioned 5, and that sort of got stuck in our discussion and embossed into the minutes. Incorporated into the minutes, but the intent was for 6. The site plan shows 6. Our application is for 6. That is the New York State utility standard, 6 poles. Anything less than 6 would be a deviation, a variance from what National Grid is requiring us to do for interconnection at this project. So we'd love to put the issue to rest, clarify the record, request 6, and continue moving forward, working with Chuck towards building permit.
And that's what it is. So the record is reflected, it's very ambiguous. So this isn't a new area variance, this isn't an amendment, it's sort of like a clarification of an ambiguous record.
Yep.
So having
Right.
never done this before.
Well, it is unusual, I will grant you that. So let's just be clear, the app, as stated tonight, the application itself did request a variance for 6 poles. 6 poles have been discussed by the board at a number of meetings, but at the final meeting at which the board took action, there was clearly discussion of 5 poles. And if we can just confirm on the record that the applicant has indicated that that was an error, that the applicant did make a mistake and misspoke, that you mentioned 5, but that at the previous meetings, there had been a discussion of 6, and that the written application itself had not been amended to reduce the number to 5. So it's up to the board's discretion, but certainly with the applicant's statement to the board that there was a mistake made, there was something misspoke at the meeting, but that the intent was for 6 poles, I think the board can just review that record and confirm the extent of the variance. I state that correctly?
Sounds great. Yes.
So we have done that. We reviewed the record by looking at the minutes, looking at the application. We understand the intent of the applicant is for 6 poles. So perhaps that we can agree on confirming the 6 poles.
I make a motion to clarify and confirm that the variance extends to a total of 6 poles for the CBE Bel Air Lane project.
Sounds like a good motion. All right. I make a motion.
So it would be to clarify and confirm
Clarify and confirm
that the extent of the area variance for the CVE Bel Air Lane project is for 6 above-ground buildings.
Remember second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Daryl. All in favor?
Aye.
So carries. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I got the highway survey, guys.
You wanna-
Yes, yep, and I put it in the system, so I don't know what happened the 27th. That was the day with the bad links and all that, so,
Yeah, I think that.
yeah.
No more mistakes.
No more mistakes.
Take care.
Good night. So I have next 831 Hoosick Road, Ace Hardware. Let's see.
And
Applicants.
he was here.
Oh, I guess, okay,
He
came
was
left.
here.
Tom Dingley was here.
Tom was
Okay.
here. and he did leave.
Okay.
I don't know if he's left. He certainly
I didn't
left the
see
room.
anybody out in the hallways.
Oh. I think it's hers that just walked out.
See outside?
No, but I think the woman just left.
Marcy.
With our computer check.
No, I'll grab her.
And while we're waiting,
Get the microphone.
oh,
Your computer.
no, we're still being recorded. So, while we're waiting for,
I have no clue.
He's live.
Skip, I got a number from Tom Dingley. Yeah, I wanted to catch him because they can go down to New York City.
We heard you. We heard you yelling all the way out there.
Let's see what I got for call.
So while we're waiting on that, you may have received in the mail, application from 793 Polling Avenue. But if you could look at, you notice
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's missing the determination from the CEO. So this is incomplete. They'll have the opportunity to submit the materials to make a complete application for the purpose of holding a public hearing, perhaps at our April meeting. That's why you have it, but we're not going to do it today. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the 831 Hoosick Road East Hardware. So it's for a freestanding sign, and then also for electronic sign. So it's going to be 2 signs in one structure. A blue sign and then a digital sign, electronic sign.
So they already had a variance.
Hey, Tom,
for-
Chuck Golden, I'm
for
at the
two
zoning board
additional
meeting
signs.
waiting for you.
Right.
Where'd you go?
Right, so this would be a third? I mean, this would be 3 signs over. They have a
Tom, Dingley, a
variance for
message.
2 additional signs, so now,
Right, so what was allowed was 7 signs. So they have signs on the face of their building, and they're brand names, and they're considered, at that time, the zoning board approved them as individual signs. So it's like Steel, Weber, yeah, Benjamin
Yep.
Moore, right. Oh,
Husqvarna.
Right, okay. In addition to their freestanding sign that's out by Hoosick. So in total, it will be 9 signs.
Is this for 2 additional signs or 1 additional?
no, they
freestanding?
already had a previous variance
No,
for
right. But what's being requested now?
another sign.
The request is to modify the existing sign and bring that up higher in the air and put an electronic sign underneath that, but still allowing 8 foot of clearance so that cars can see through
Oh,
those.
so
Oh, okay.
I got it. So adding on to the existing freestanding sign.
Right.
You'll have to modify the framework, yeah, it doesn't go up high enough.
Here's the picture.
They would like an electronic sign to be able to scroll the
Yeah,
specials
yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah, wait till April. Maybe we have to wait till April, to ask if we have questions.
I called Tom Dingley and got his answering machine. He was here in the group.
Right.
I have no idea where he went, why he left. Yeah.
Excuse me, is the zoning meeting closed?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Great, so I have some questions. I kind of maybe have the questions answered before I say that the application is complete on holding a public hearing.
This is for the signage?
Right.
Okay. Do you want to give me your questions and I will ask the applicant or?
Sure, so what are other options? So that is one of the standards that the zoning board has to consider.
Mhm.
So saying that the sign that he has is outdated. What are his other options? And if, Chuck, if you want to just go over the size allowance, so what's being proposed is 37 square feet on each side. What is allowed is 35 feet on each side. So he's over by 2.05 square feet.
Does that put him over the 350 square feet? I mean, what does it fall?
The total sign area.
Total sign.
So it says here, it's, I believe, 257.
Yeah, 257.94.
Oh, so he's under, right?
Yeah, he's still under 300 and he can have 300. The 50-foot setback is not there, but they have the frontage and they have the area for the elevation front of the building. But currently at 257.94, that's with what I call the dormant sign, which they made 70 square feet up above it. And then the electric at 74.11, and that's both sides of the sign. But one of the options is, as to what our options is, possibly not going with the standard sign and just having the electronic sign with maybe a banner on the top of a fixed banner that says Ace Hardware above the electronic sign. And not so much banner, but.
I thought it was interesting to note that the applicant cited, I'm not sure where in here, that there are other signs like that on Hoosick Road. Don't it go and
Yes.
pay attention, see it, you see other signs, other electronic signs on Hoosick Road. Does anyone see a reason why we should not accept this as being complete and to schedule a public hearing in April? Or would you like to talk to the applicant first, or should we go ahead and schedule this as a public hearing? The first one at 6 o'clock, the next time we meet in April.
Let me see, that was 17th.
I think we can move forward with that.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
Okay, so that's good. there any other notes
Yeah,
of
that's not
business?
correct. I'm trying to train. This ain't going. It's not, this is a two-step.
Any corrections you'd like to make?
Yeah, in the one,
Denial letter?
yeah, it's, the maximum allowed signage is not exceeded. It wouldn't be exceeded with the new signage either. Because he's allowed 300 square foot.
So you're referring to this page where it's.
That one, the non-bold one.
The one
Okay,
from Mike, the denial letter.
The maximum square footage is not exceeded. It's just total number of signs.
total.
Oh, yeah.
number of signs.
Yeah.
That's the one. Yeah.
Any other notes of new business that you'd like to bring up before we adjourn tonight's meeting?
I would just like to thank Chris for filling in.
Thank me again, April, I'll be back.
Well, I'm just saying, it was, you know, for the most
I
part,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you. Make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting, wait a second. I'll second. Thank you, Patricia. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.